all illegal immigrants in California will be deported. You can protest all you want, but it's not going to change anything, folks. So I suggest you don't waste your time protesting and go find a job. California has so many brokies, and you guys can see the reason now. They do nothing but protest all day, like that's going to do anything. How about you find a job and stop being a brokey? Like I said from day one when I got elected, I have no problem with immigrants, but these illegal ones are the ones causing all the problems. California has turned into a shithole of a state because of these illegal aliens being allowed in. All the nasty criminals and losers from all around the world, they're just walking right through that border like it's a free-for-all Diddy party. But any protester who gets in the way of our enforcers will be put in jail with all the illegal criminals. I need to teach them a lesson the hard way. Let's see how you deal with these aliens in jail and see how friendly they are to you. That big, beautiful wall is going to do wonders for this country, but more importantly for that shithole state of California. We need to bring the old California back.
Hold up. Do y'all remember the last 6 months as Donald Trump was president, the last time that the country was in an uproar? People stormed the Capitol. Now here we are again with Donald Trump as president. In the first 6 months, the country is in uproar again. Is Donald Trump breaking America? Hey, make sure y'all watch this video all the way to the end. Let me know how you feel about it as well.
I don't like to use the word illegal. It is undocumented. Coming into the country without documents, it's not illegal. It's not a crime.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me. It is a.
There was a tourist
can
who
I
got
finish,
arrested in
please?
New York.
It is a misdemeanor. And
it's against the law.
It is
if
a
I steal
misdemeanor.
gum, it's a misdemeanor, but I broke
just
the
a minute.
law.
It is a misdemeanor, just like DUI is a misdemeanor, just like indecent
I've been hit by
exposure
a drunk
is a
driver who
misdemeanor.
died.
And
Don't tell me that's a misdemeanor when he crashed my family go over 100 miles an hour.
Excuse
I'm
me.
sorry. That if you want to say that DUI is somehow a misdemeanor and we should treat it like it's not committing a criminal act.
I didn't
You
say
said
that.
it's a misdemeanor like it's the same thing.
It is a misdemeanor, just like coming
It's
into
still
the Congress.
breaking the
Okay,
law.
but that's
Can you
not
just
the
let her
point.
finish for just
Let me
a second,
finish. That's not
please?
the
Thank
point.
you.
There's a lot of misconceptions, and one of them is that it is a misdemeanor to come into the country illegally. If you get deported and then come back in, then it becomes a crime. But even then, if it becomes a crime, that doesn't mean that you're a rapist and that you're a murderer and that you're a drug dealer.
From the time that I've been speaking since I started in May 2019 up until now and going into the future, there are going to be such powerful changes in what makes America. There's going to be such powerful shifts in what forces will drive and control America in the future that the people who belong to America are going to become absolutely subjugated to powers. This is physical natural powers. This includes a physical natural power such as will be unleashed against this country from the elements. I'm talking about the sun. I'm talking about the rain. I'm talking about natural disasters such as earthquakes, such as floods. We will see tsunamis in the future on both the east and the west coast. We're going to see almost kind of glacial activity. The winters in America are going to become harrowing as we go into the future. Same for the summers. The temperatures that God will unleash against this country will become so dangerous that people will be prone to external skin diseases because the sun is going to be burning and disfiguring people as part of what you can actually read in the book of Revelation as how the sun scorched people, and as the sun was scorching people, people were cursing God. So America is definitely included in many of the end times judgments that you can find in the book of Revelation because the most obstinate people in the world live here. And that is not a statement that I need to qualify. That is not a statement that I need to say in case you're upset about it or in case you're angry. Here are the reasons. These are statements that come directly from God's heart to the American people. God says that the people in America are the most hardened people towards righteousness and goodness and the most open-hearted people towards sin, meaning that every single type of thing that God hates will be able to find a comfortable home here in America. And not only will sin be able to find a home here in America, but sin will always have an advocate in an American, meaning that as long as you can point to something and say that is a sin, there will be a huge crowd standing up to defend that sin. As soon as God raises up a voice to identify sin, people will say, why are you identifying the sin? Why are you pointing to that sin? Why are you exposing it? Why are you naming it by its name? Who told you that that's even a sin? Do you know how many people do that? Do you know how many people are doing just that? Who told you that's a sin? That's a lifestyle. So that is what happens here. Not only are the people always willing to find a space to welcome sin in, But sin will always have a group of people, usually millions, in the way that they think and practice their daily life, who will stand up for egregious sins such as homosexuality, such as fornication, such as adultery, such as having loose lifestyles that are prone to drinking, smoking, taking of substances. People will take substances in this country and then say that they need it to relax, they need it to de-stress, and things like that. And I just want to let you know something that God was putting on my heart today when I was having a little bit of exercise, is that people who continue to take these things that you puff on, the colored nicotine, e-cigarettes, the vape stick, whatever that is, you're going to get cancer in your mouth. You're going to get cancerous sores in your mouth and in your throat. And God says a lot of you that you will not make it, because he says that these sticks, you use it and you tell yourself in your heart, here's the excuse that he was putting in my heart, as if I'm a person that has ever touched these things. The excuse that was coming up in my heart when the Lord was just laying it on me about what this punishment will be, is that people use these sticks and they continuously justify to themselves that it's not as bad as nicotine, because that is what is marketed to them by these people who are giving you just something that is not even an alternative to nicotine. It's just a nicotine with different skin. It's just nicotine in a different font. But then they tell you it's less addictive based on who knows what type of research that they've obviously paid the FDA to funnel through and pass it and say, yes, it's legit. If you are an American, I'm just speaking here by the Spirit of the Lord, according to whatever is flowing through my spirit, because Yah has been saying so many things that even though I was able to capture some of it down, which is the prophecy for today, I didn't capture all of it. So as it comes through, I'm just going to give it to you live, and it's just going to be live prophecy plus whatever I just got written down in the last 40 minutes or so, because people will justify the thing that they are doing. And God is actually saying, and has been saying to me today, that we have come to the end of the road for the justification of sin. Since people are now at the point where they are complacent in sin, and they also have a little linchpin in the ticking time bomb of having sin in their life, and they just have their finger in that grenade pin, like, oh, but it's less addictive than nicotine and stuff like that. God is actually telling me that not only will you get cancerous sores in your mouth, but that thing you refuse to pull the trigger on, and I'm talking about just e-cigarettes. I'm not even talking about the more dangerous portal things like weed, like alcohol. I'm just talking about e-cigarettes, puff, puff, and then the little smoke comes out. God says that there's going to be the payment and the penalty of madness for smoking those things. Those little cartridges that you put in them, pink and blue and raspberry flavored and stuff like that, you are going to go over to the other side. A lot of you have been watching this evil program that you should not be watching called Stranger Things. And Stranger Things is the show, if you see the trailer of it, that actually depicts what I've been talking about here for a long time, that there is another side. If you watch one of my old prophecies from, I think it's 2021, it's called A People of Madness. There's A People of Madness Part 1 and A People of Madness Part 2. And in A People of Madness Part 2, I was talking about how there's going to be mass departure from the mind of many Americans. And that affliction of madness is going to come against this country as part of God's judgment for a people who truly intellectualize the existence of sin. What is sin? Is sin really sin? And even if it's sin, is my sin sin? Let me send Celestial a mail and tell her about a situation that I can easily read in the Bible and see that it's sinful. But I just want to hear someone who looks like an authority figure tell me that, yes, if you're doing the same thing that's in the Bible, then you also fall under the category of sin. So because people intellectualize the existence of sin, and then also they are very complacent in warring against sin to get sin out. The Lord was simply highlighting this one issue of e-cigarettes and saying that you are literally going to put that thing in your mouth and take a puff of cherry flavored smoke like you always do. And the next thing is you will find yourself in that Stranger Things dimension. You're going to find yourself there. You're not going to be able to come back. You're going to be stuck in that dimension where demons, devils, creatures, and unshapable darkness. There's darkness that actually is alive. It's not like the darkness that happens outside when the sun goes down and the moon comes up. There is a darkness that can take amorphous forms. It can form itself and it will be right there in front of you. And you will lose your mind and you will get stuck in that other so-called other dimension that movie calls the upside down. Personally, I have no name for it, but I have been constantly talking about a realm where you will be conscious on that side, screaming and screaming and screaming because of the things that you will see. But on this side, as soon as you start that screaming from over there, I said that they will medicate you and you will be sitting in a little cotton gown and rocking, and your family will be coming to see you and thinking, I think he's getting better. I think he can hear us. There'll be nothing like that, all for the sake of puffing, because it may seem like, oh, what an extreme judgment, what an extreme punishment for just puffing on an e-cigarette. But actually, the greater understanding of what you have done is that you have continued to drag garbage into the temple of the Lord, which the body is. You have refused to take the trash out. You have refused to take the garbage out. You have refused to remain celibate because you want to have sex, because you think that you're the only person on earth that God is going to give a pass to. And so eventually, for the continual pulling of large sacks of trash into the temple, God is simply going to shut the door on revolving in and out of sin. And just for that simple addiction, which the world will constantly justify. You bring this up now in the midst of people who vape, and they will fight you all day. And the reason they will fight you all day, I've already explained as I'm speaking, is because there is no desire to cut off sin in the hearts of the majority of people in this country. Whenever the conversation of sin arises, the average American immediately becomes sensitized on the devil's side to say, how do you know all this? How do you know that the things that you're saying is true? We shouldn't judge. Right now, the perfect example for that is that a man is on trial, and every single day of his trial, worse information about the monstrosity that he secretly was comes out. But people just keep saying, I'm not one to judge any man. I'm not one to judge any man. Only God can really judge this man. And yet, as God is in the process of using man's own systems to judge this person, people continue to say that there has to be a wide gap left for even a reprobate to come back. But that's not the way God does things. There is no room for reprobates to come back. That is why God is very clear in the book of Romans 1 that when you enter into the arena reserved for the reprobates, he will give you over to the reprobate mind. And that mind is always on a one-way pipeline to hell. The reason that people think that there also is forgiveness and grace and room for the reprobate to come back is because people refuse to read God's word and acknowledge that God also has a cut-off point. God warns about his cut-off point. He says that grace does not abound, so sin can abound. But people read that and think, oh, he doesn't mean that, because people always think that God is the one more chance God, but he's not.
Flyers and posters saying
CNN?
It's time to escalate.
Wait 1 second, John. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jason,
Yep.
what's going on? I hear you. Am I seeing Jason Carroll being? What happened, Jason?
I am being detained. Laura. I'm not being arrested. Correct, officers?
Did you hear what he told you?
No.
We're letting you go, but you can't come back.
Okay.
Because then if you come back, then you go.
Okay.
Okay, please?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, officer.
Take care. You too. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
What happened, Jason?
If you guys can still hear me, what happened was Yes.
I'm Chris with the New York Times. We got video of you guys.
Oh, you did?
If you need it later,
thank you.
call New York Times.
I appreciate that.
I can hear you still, Jason. What's happening?
So here's what happened, Laura. The officer, I was called over, and the officer told me to put my hands behind my back. I said, am I being arrested? He said, you were being detained. I was walked out of the area. They took down my information.
Oh, I'm losing his IFB right now. I can't hear you, Jason. John Miller.
But today, God was addressing America's turmoil, and God said that bombs are going to go off in America. He was saying, my child, explosions coming to America, and it's going to be small bombs. So when God gave me the prophecy in 2019, July, I saw the effect of small bombs, and I saw the effect of bombs like the Oklahoma bombing, where it just ripped off the face of a building. But God said that whether it will be big bombs, small bombs, there's just one hand at work. And he said it is an American hand. He said it's not foreigners. It's not malactors. It's not Iran or Iraq or the Saudis. It's nobody from outside. He said it's none of the usual boogeymen. He said it is from within. America will be terrorized from within. She will have malactors working from the inside. And the point of it is to destabilize the country. He said the nation will be terrorized from within because these bombs are going to be going off in public places like people's gyms, people's jobs, cafes. That's what I was seeing back then. America is going to become like this boiling pot. And you know, the boiling pot, the bubbles are just every which way. That is how this nation will be. Things will just be happening a dime a dozen until there is no stability in the country. And the Lord says that in this domestic turmoil, that is when foreign actors are going to be greatly emboldened. They're going to be watching. They're going to be thinking this is going better than we could have ever hoped. We were thinking we would have to do plan A or DEFCON 1, but these people are helping us so much. And God mentioned here that foreign invasion would come to America, that nations of greater strength, swift and merciless nation would be coming down in waves of invasion like Pearl Harbor. America will be bombarded by this from the sea, from the land, and by the air. She will be outgunned, outclassed, outfoxed, outnumbered, and this once great and proud nation will fall. America, I prophesy to you at the command of God, you will see war. And God said the drums of war are beating out their song, and America would dance to that song, whether she likes it or not, the same way that slaves are bent to their master's will. Said that destabilization would come, and it would come with this marker: bombings. Bombings like a rash across America, not 2 or 1 bombs. These bombs will be going off mostly in cities, small handmade bombs that are calculated to do much damage in small spaces. And one of the visions I saw during this was that people were bombed in an embassy. People were bombed in an embassy, but it would also be happening in offices, cafes, and things like that. And God said some of them would be bigger bombs, but it would mostly be scattered ones going off at random locations. And he said these bombs have an agenda. It is a deliberate agenda, and that is to scare the living daylights out of people. That is one. To really send fear to the core of people. Where are these bombs coming from? Who's doing it? And you can trust that the media will be in there speculating that it's Russia and it's China. It is America doing it to America. In other words, internal false flags. And they are all heading to the removal of Amendment 2. I spoke about the carrying of the right to bear your weapon and protect your home, your family, your goods. And things like that. So it's all heading in one place, and it's also to give the new world order, to put the military on the street. They need an excuse to bring out the military apparatus and to begin to parade it in the face of the people. This is a democratic nation. There is no reason for the soldiers to ever be marching in the streets unless a foreign country was also in these streets. Well, the foreign country will be us, we, the people. They need a reason to bring the police out, the military, the National Guard, every kind of guard, because that is one of the top and most obvious hallmarks of a communist nation. In those nations, the police are out 24 hours a day. They have the right to do anything. They are above the law, even though they're supposed to be within the law. And so the only way that it would ever happen is if America is facing the kind of threat that gives good reason to have police stopping people, searching people, and saying, well, you know, it's a dangerous climate. You look like you might have a bomb in that book bag, so we're going to have to search it. All that stuff is coming, and the Lord says it comes from a deliberate source, and there's a deliberate agenda at work.
At some point, we really need to sit back and say, hey, man, you know what? This is really getting out of control. I understand, yeah, make America great again. But to tell you the truth, nothing has been great. Nothing good has come out of nothing that Donald Trump is doing.
If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play.
I want to say a few words about the events of the last few days. This past weekend, federal agents conducted large-scale workplace raids in and around Los Angeles. Those raids continue as I speak. California is no stranger to immigration enforcement, but instead of focusing on undocumented immigrants with serious criminal records and people with final deportation orders, a strategy both parties have long supported, this administration is pushing mass deportations, indiscriminately targeting hardworking immigrant families, regardless of their roots or risk. What's happening right now is very different than anything we've seen before. On Saturday morning, when federal agents jumped out of an unmarked van near a Home Depot parking lot, they began grabbing people, a deliberate targeting of a heavily Latino suburb. A similar scene played out when a clothing company was raided downtown. In other actions, a U.S. citizen, 9 months pregnant, was arrested. A 4-year-old girl taken. families separated, friends quite literally disappearing. In response, everyday Angelenos came out to exercise their constitutional right to free speech and assembly, to protest their government's actions. In turn, the state of California and the city and county of Los Angeles sent our police officers to help keep the peace. And with some exceptions, they were successful. Like many states, California is no stranger to this sort of unrest. We manage it regularly and with our own law enforcement. But this, again, was different. What then ensued was the use of tear gas, flashbang grenades, rubber bullets, federal agents detaining people and undermining their due process rights. Donald Trump, without consulting California law enforcement leaders, commandeered 2,000 of our state's National Guard members to deploy on our streets, illegally and for no reason. This brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. That's when the downward spiral began. He doubled down on his dangerous National Guard deployment by fanning the flames even harder. And the president, he did it on purpose. As the news spread throughout LA, anxiety for family and friends ramped up. Protests started again. By night, several dozen lawbreakers became violent and destructive. They vandalized property. They tried to assault police officers. Many of you have seen the video clips of cars burning on cable news. If you incite violence, I want to be clear about this. If you incite violence or destroy our communities, you're going to be held to account. That kind of criminal behavior will not be tolerated. Full stop. Already more than 220 people have been arrested, and we're reviewing tapes to build additional cases, and people will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Again, thanks to our law enforcement officers and the majority of Angelenos who protested peacefully, the situation was winding down and was concentrated in just a few square blocks downtown. But that's not what Donald Trump wanted. He again chose escalation. He chose more force. He chose theatrics over public safety. He federalized another 2,000 Guard members. He deployed more than 700 active U.S. Marines. These are the men and women trained for foreign combat, not domestic law enforcement. We honor their service. We honor their bravery. But we do not want our streets militarized by our own armed forces, not in LA, not in California, not anywhere. We're seeing unmarked cars in school parking lots, kids afraid of attending their own graduation. Trump is pulling a military dragnet all across Los Angeles, well beyond his stated intent to just go after violent and serious criminals. His agents are arresting dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses. That's just weakness masquerading as strength. Donald Trump's government isn't protecting our communities. They're traumatizing our communities. And that seems to be the entire point. California will keep fighting. We'll keep fighting on behalf of our people, all of our people, including in the courts. Just yesterday, we filed a legal challenge to Donald Trump's reckless deployment of American troops to a major American city. Today, we sought an emergency court order to stop the use of the American military to engage in law enforcement activities across Los Angeles. If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe. Authoritarian regimes begin by targeting people who are least able to defend themselves, but they do not stop there. Trump and his loyalists, they thrive on division because it allows them to take more power and exert even more control. And by the way, Trump, he's not opposed to lawlessness and violence as long as it serves him. What more evidence do we need than January 6th? I ask everyone, take time, reflect on this perilous moment. A president who wants to be bound by no law or constitution, perpetuating a unified assault on American traditions. This is a president who in just over 140 days has fired government watchdogs that could hold him accountable for corruption and fraud. He's declared a war on culture, on history, on science, on knowledge itself. Databases, quite literally, are vanishing. He's delegitimizing news organizations, and he's assaulting the First Amendment. And the threat of defunding them, at threat, he's dictating what universities themselves can teach. He's targeting law firms and the judicial branch that are the foundations of an orderly and civil society. He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected. And we all know this Saturday, he's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday, just as other failed dictators have done in the past. Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. This is about all of us. This is about you. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next. Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment we have feared has arrived. He's taking a wrecking ball to our founding fathers' historic project. 3 co-equal branches of independent government. There are no longer any checks and balances. Congress is nowhere to be found. Speaker Johnson has completely abdicated that responsibility. The rule of law has increasingly been given way to the rule of Don. The founding fathers, they didn't live and die to see this kind of moment. It's time for all of us to stand up. Justice Brandeis, he said it best. In a democracy, the most important office, with all due respect, Mr. President, is not the presidency, and it's certainly not governor. The most important office is office of citizen. At this moment, we all need to stand up and be held to account, a higher level of accountability. If you exercise your First Amendment rights, please, please do it peacefully. I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear. But I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
If the litmus test is true for me, then the litmus test must be true for those that you follow. For they have no library. They have no flood prophecy. They have no California earthquake prophecy. They have no rebukes to people who are actually coming true. You cursed me for Tony Evans, and then Tony Evans dipped quickly, very quickly. You cursed me for putting my hand on the pastor's Gateway Church is on its 5th scandal, 5th pastor stepping down. Robert Morris gone in the wind, his son gone in the wind. One by one, pastors have been falling all year. The prophecy is called peanut butter. You say the blog is fake. God is no liar. The question is, to whom do these words belong? So let's continue. Where had I stopped? I think I had stopped where we came and God had only given me these 2 things. And we were on the line and we were praying, and I asked everybody to be still. I said, we have to be still. We have to hear God. I have to know what God is saying, because this is not orthodox. When God gives his word, especially as detailed, yes, where I stopped is that the Kamala Harris prophecies are at least 20 of them, 16, 18, like that. And then there have been more added, and she appears in so many other prophecies as a side actor, like in the prophecy Ready Player One. It's not really about her, but she's mentioned there. And so that will be all compiled for you to go through for yourself. So I had to seek God, and I had to say, Lord, what is this? What is this? Because I know that your word cannot fail. And I know that you told me your messages will not fall to the ground. So what is this that has happened? And we sat on the line for about 5-10 minutes, and I wouldn't allow anyone to speak, because if God is going to come through, and I have to tell you, the atmosphere was like brick. It was very hard. It was like heaven was almost kind of bronzed. It was very hard. Normally, the minute I sit down, I want to put a smoothie in my mouth. God is like, and be it unto this, and verily it shall be. But not yesterday. It was not like that. And so finally, the Lord simply says, it was the desire of their heart. I'm listening. It was the desire of their heart. Okay. He said, yes, it was the desire of their heart. I gave them what they wanted. It was the desire of their heart. And in the early morning today, this is off the prayer line. When I woke up, I went to the Lord and I was just thinking, I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking, Lord, since when in the name of mayonnaise have you ever given someone the desire of their heart when that desire was counter to what you said? How does that happen? By what process, God, would you ever give America the desire of their heart just because it was the desire of their heart? And then God flashed me a picture, and here's the picture. As many as the dots as you can see on this shirt that I'm wearing, to those of you who are trucking and you can't see, God bless you, keep your eyes on the road. But I'm wearing a shirt with tons and tons of tiny polka dots. And as many as the dots as you can see on this shirt, that's how I saw people in the midst of the kind of prayer that I think only an African prayer group would know. Because you can go and you can be in a French prayer group, okay? You can pray with international students. I've been there. You can pray in an American prayer group, but there's something that will happen when you're in the midst of some Ghanaians, when you're in the midst of some Nigerians, the way they will be popping tongues. These people will be bent over, okay, like Elijah, and they will be going braka. Ebe, they will be praying, they will be shaking their body, they will be alive. That is how I saw people in America praying. They were praying until it was as if steam was rising off their body. And to a man, all of them were asking God for Donald Trump to be the president. Every single one of them was bent in prayer for Donald Trump to be the president. And when I saw this quick flash this morning, I said to the Lord, Lord, can I ask you something? You say that this is the desire of their heart and you have granted them the desire of their heart. But I have to ask you this. Did America repent? And he said instantly, no, they have not. They did not pray to me like this to repent of their sins. They did not pray to me like this to repent of the nesting evils in their midst. This is the people who traffic people. This is the people that I have told you of who eat babies. Now you are hearing the celebrities talking about baby eating. Now it's everywhere on the blogs. But when you first heard that children were eaten here in 2019 in the prophecy Blood to Drink, what did you do? You dragged me. You called me a liar. You told me, what do I think you are? Cannibals. And it turns out that the answer is a big fat resounding yes. Now your superstars are sitting and saying that, oh, we will take the blood from the foreskin of a young person. So they're cutting off the foreskin of children and rubbing the blood on their face. And that is only the lower level of what they are doing. But when it was spoken before, what was the response? Vitriol, false prophet, lies. So I said, Lord, if this nation has not repented, then this is not a case of Nineveh where you have turned a message because the people repented and then you relented against what you said you were going to do. And the Lord said, no, their judgments are still upon them. This was the desire of their heart. This is what they wanted more than me. They desired this outcome more than seeking my favor, more than seeking my forgiveness, more than seeking my mercy. America, I tell you, I've seen you pray. I've been in your midst while you pray. You've never prayed for God to forgive this country the way I saw people praying for this man scattered across the nation to be chosen and confirmed. And so hear the word of the Lord. Let me give you what the Lord has said in this prophecy, A Single Brick in the Wall, November the 6th, 2024. It is the desire of their heart, their own desire, their own choice. I have given them the desire of their heart because they have trusted in it instead of trusting me. So it will be unto them, and the end of it will be great. Now, when you hear the word great, you might be tempted to say, you see, it will be great. It will be fabulous because great is a good word. No. In the Bible, they can say something like, and the people of the Philistines came and the people of Israel came, and there was a battle that raged in the valley of En-Gedi all day, and great was the slaughter of either the Philistines or either the Israelites. They can say, and Israel was a few people, and they shook like leaves in the wind, for they knew that Pharaoh cometh upon them quickly with a great company. What that's telling you is a picture of great death coming. So this word great is you know, without me telling you, strongly associated with Donald Trump. His entire motto is make America what? Make America repent again. Make America confess of her sins. Make America erase the fact that she went to the polls and 14% of the people in this country. Can you imagine what 14% of 341 million people is? 14% of the people in this country went to the polls yesterday and voted to protect their right to abort children, their right to kill the babies that are the outcome of all the free sex they feel entitled to have. So the fornication, breeding, abortion, two sins holding each other hand in hand. This was the third most worried about thing in the exit polling of America. The first 35 or something percent were worried that America is no longer a democratic nation. The second, the economy, maybe 28 or 29%, I forget. But that 14% is burned into my mind. Why? Because the 14% was greater than the 11% of people who were worried about the sanctity of the border and the 9% who were worried about the rise of immigrants in this country. 14% of people cast their votes. So when I tell you that there's nothing in me that would lead me to pray either red or blue into place, because my conscience would eat me praying for people that want to kill babies. It's like choosing between trash and trash in this country, but my, the way the people fight to uphold and protect their chosen trash bag. So Yah said, it will be so unto them, and the end of it will be great. Then he said, great was the fall of the house. Great was the destruction of the land. I will set my word in you, and it will prevail over them. It will come up on them like the sea. Instead of moving backward, it will surge forward until it covers them. It will knock them down and be victorious over them. America, you will see the sea come up over all its banks and surge over you until you can't escape it on any of your borders. I will prevail over you with my word until you can't stop pleading for mercy or air. Remember, I spoke of the person that God says that because of the high percentage of mockers and scoffers, you hear the prophecy, it's automatic laughter. Right now, people are living their best life on all social medias, I imagine, laughing. Oh, we can't wait for her to come and cry. Why would I cry? America, I don't even have tears for you for the ending that I have seen for you. I don't have tears for myself on account of what you do to me on a regular basis. Why would I cry? What is there to cry about? Our situation is what it is. You and me, we are together until Putin takes the last one that he wants, and then I can break free of you forever. But until that time, we are one, you and I. And so Yah says, America, you will see the sea coming up over all its banks, and it will surge over you until you can't escape it on any of your borders. I will prevail over you with my word. He will never allow it to cool off. A lot of people listen to these prophecies and they always say, oh, prophecy is conditional. Some prophecy is conditional. Not all of it. Not all of it. Some prophecy simply is what it is. It's simply a statement that will come upon the one who has gone to fetch water on the backside of the desert. In other words, the one who has gone to enrage God to the point where he will now make what is known as a proclamation against you. And then he's not going to take it back. This is why we went through, for instance, the November 2024 time period, and a lot of Americans were elated. We have made the prophecies of Celestial fail, they said. It was a false prophecy, they said. She lied, they said. And all God said was, nothing has changed. They instigated for a king they shall receive, and yet the judgment remains upon them. People of wisdom who watched those old prophecies concerning the coming of a female president, if you remember every detail in those prophecies, you will see that not only are we in the details of those prophecies, but speaking for myself, we are moving at a pace that is much too fast into the fulfillment of those things. It is like exchanging a queen for a king on the same chessboard where you were losing anyway. Saw this week 7 executive orders signed in one afternoon. The ones that concerned me most were directed against a law firm. I have never seen an executive order, which is basically the full power of the state. The power of the state that does not even involve a conversation with Congress. This is going above Congress's head executive orders, okay, of the executive of the presidential office, they exist for situations where the emergency is so dire, or where the need, the issue on the table is so great that the executive decides we can't wait for due process. We can't wait for the lower house and the Senate to sit and thrash this thing out in session after session until they finally get to a cohesive set of rules that they put down, and then they vote and then they pass it. The executive order is a last resort situation. For instance, if there was to be, God forbid, a sudden outbreak of Ebola, nobody has time to wait for Nancy Pelosi and friends, Chuck Schumer and friends, Speaker Johnson and friends to sit down and sessionize themselves until they finally agree on the best way to handle the Ebola outbreak. We're going to pass this rule. We're going to pass this bill. It's the wash your hands bill. It's the don't talk to anyone before you catch Ebola bill. Nobody has time for that. Obviously, they're going to put emergency measures into place because that's a dire situation. Is it a dire situation to want to punish one law firm that did something to you in the time of your life when you were down and the Democrats were up, and now that you're up, you take the state mechanism, which is very sharp. Those of you who never studied political science, you never did law, you never did economics, it's no shade to you, but you might not have a deeper understanding of how weighty the apparatus of the state is. The apparatus of the state is so weighty that the Constitution made sure to leave us room to get rid of a dangerous state by taking up arms if necessary, because the forefathers understood that the state can be a scary mechanical entity against the soft flesh of people. The state has endless tools at its fingertips to make the lives of citizens extremely oppressed, repressed, and miserable. Is it an emergency to weaponize the state apparatus that is meant for emergencies against one law firm because the law firm did something to you? And then right after that, we have breaking news of 5 law firms being forced to provide almost $500 million worth of pro bono services unless they will face punitive measures by the state. Can anyone in America, people with better degrees than mine, explain to us as a collective why the state has come down to the level of a petty ex-girlfriend? And no one seems to be concerned by this. Everyone is like, but technically it's not Kamala. Are you insane out there that you have no care for yourself, your sovereignty, your children, that you cannot see that absolutely nothing is different from what is prophesied against us except the glove that is doing the prophecy? Executive order signed against one legal entity and a second executive order signed against one man. I'm going to leave the link. I think I still have that saved on my phone. I'm going to leave the link in a comment so that whoever wants to look at it and think deeper can look at it. An executive order signed not for a whole group of people, like this group of people is now being granted housing by the government, or we are now declaring this area a national park because the American Indians, it's their sacred land, and so we hereby decree that this entire group, and an executive order for one person simply because he published a gossipy expose and he wrote it to the heavens as a CNN correspondent in the past 4 years. And now there's an executive order, and the president is saying with his own life, I'm going to get the FBI to investigate every inch of this person's life. And then people will still walk around drinking Ethiopian coffee and saying it's the best country in the world. It's the freest nation in the world. Again, with politeness. Are you insane? At what point is cogent thought going to enter people's minds that the state is so heavy that this is why we have laws to keep the heaviness of the state from knocking on individual doors? When the state wants to knock on individual doors, we have proper means to do that. They're called the police. The state doesn't come knocking on individual doors from the Oval Office. That's not the way it's done. We have the police. The police are the tiny trickle-down arm of the state that knocks. The cop knocks, and the cop says we have questions. And then the cop brings you to the station. And if it's really bad, then we have a room where we take you to ask questions. It's called a courtroom. You are entitled to go to the courtroom to have questions asked. What you're not entitled to is a sheet of paper being signed on national TV with just your name on it that says they're going to investigate you down to what kind of sock color you have because, and I quote, he's a very bad guy. He's a bad guy. There's sure to be other things that he has done. And then an American will sit and open their mouth about Kim Jong-un with absolutely no sense of irony whatsoever. All this is putting me in is of the previous prophecies when I said that it was not surprising to me that among the people who were put to death in the coming regime that we're looking at, but we're pretending that we can't see it, the majority of us, the people who were put to death largely, that surprised me but didn't surprise me, were political science majors. They were these professors in all the fancy universities, Columbia, Stanford, Harvard, wherever, because those people understand at a very deep level how nations run, how civilized nations run. Those people are the warning signals that will always begin to beep first when they see civilized nations saying, but we can do this because in this case, he's bad, she's bad. Those warning signals begin to do op-eds. They begin to write open letters. They begin to write opinion pieces, and they begin to warn the nation that all is not well. And as they continue to beep, they will eventually kill them for beeping.
At the end of the day, people are going to feel different ways about this video. But at the end of the day, we all have to live here in America, and the whole world is watching what is going on in the American streets. The whole world is watching every city in America riot and go against the authorities, the government. What is really going on here? We need to wake up and really discern what's going on. Donald Trump is really not the man that should be leading this nation, and nothing that he is doing is going to make this nation great again. But everyone has their own thoughts and opinions about that. So make sure you drop down in the comments. Let me know how you feel about this video. Hey, see y'all next time.